Hey, welcome to June 2024 already. And this month's webinar for Paul and I is the 8 essential components of a world-class employment brand. We're so happy to have you here today. I see some familiar faces in the room, which is always great because it lets us know we're doing something right if you're coming back for more. So today, this is one of the ones I think is really kind of near and dear to my heart, because this is the nuts and bolts of what we're about as organizations in terms of being who we want to be. And so the reality is, so many places say they want to be an employer of choice, or, call it best in class, call it whatever you want. The reality is we can only achieve that and pull in the top tier talent that we really want to need when we build our employment brand. And I want to frame you for today in thinking that, each of your organizations has a marketing brand. You market to a very specific customer, whether it's services you have to offer or goods that you're producing. And you market in such a way as to draw your ideal customer to you because you know that they will spend more money and they'll be loyal to you. The idea of of an employment brand is just like a marketing brand. We want to market to the people that are in the surrounding areas that will come to us and be the employees we need them to be, the best of the best, top tier talent. And at the end of today, Paul and I are going to show you the 8 things you've got to keep your fingers on to make sure you're building the right kind of employment brand for you. So this is for you if you have specialized roles that have been open too long. We talk to folks all the time that'll say, Ed, 6, 7, 9 months longer for very unique positions. We're not necessarily talking about your frontline positions that you may also be struggling with, but very specialized roles, perhaps roles that really impact your ability to hit your organizational objectives. And so whatever far too long means to you, if you've got those kinds of things going on, you're definitely in the right place. Now, if you're worried about talent leaving you just because someone's paying a little bit more down the road, this is for you as well. We recognize with the economy that we're in that money's money, right? And we see people routinely leaving our clients for 25 cents an hour, 5,000 more a year, whatever it happens to be. We can stop that to a certain extent. We can't totally close that door because there are some people that are only going to worry about the money. But we can start to close the door a little bit so that we keep more people because we're offering more other things that they also value just as much, if not more in some cases, than money. And finally, if you want to know how the best companies are doing, how are they attracting and retaining their highly skilled workers, you're going to get that today. We'll be showing you through some case study. Paul's going to dive in and tell some stories about organizations that are doing this well. And you're going to find, yeah, there's some big players that we're going to talk about, but we're also going to share some examples of everyday businesses just like all of you that are in the room today that are making these things work for them to the best of their ability and within their budget. So here's the 3 things we're going to focus on today. We're going to look at the real reasons that people leave, and it is more than just financial. We know that's a big piece of it today, and I don't want to underplay that, but it's more than financial right now. We're going to look at the factors that people do value more than money that we can focus on. If you're not, I know we've got some not-for-profits in the room today, maybe even those of you that are in the for-profit sector. If you're not leading the market in pay, and I know a lot of you aren't, then we've got to focus on some other things that we know people value, perhaps even a little bit more than money. And then finally, what you're going to get out today is what you can do right now to keep your top talent. And then what can you do to convince other top talent to come join them? And we're going to see, you're going to hear the word marketing a lot today, and we're going to be real specific. And that's going to, that's where Paul's magic sauce is. He's the marketer. He's going to have lots of stories to tell you today. Okay, so just a quick plug for next month's webinar. we're going to be looking specifically at your recruitment strategy and revolutionizing it with 4 pillars that are just going to help you crush your competition, right? This is all about, right? So July 24th, or excuse me, July 10th, 2024, 1 o'clock. And I believe the link to register for that is already out there on my website. So let's continue on. I see someone else jumping in here. Okay. So I think so many of you are familiar with us that we're going to keep these intros really short. Hey, I'm Ed Pro. I'm the talent transformation expert for organizations that are seeking 8-figure growth. I do that by working with them on their people strategies and their leadership strategies so that they can align those 2 strategies with their business strategy to hit their organizational objectives. Paul, shout out to you. What's up with you?
Thanks, Ed. Ed and I have been working together since 2020, and we got to know each other on a webinar like this, but it was for somebody that was talking to Ed about speaking and promoting his own brand, the marketing side of things. And he came across me because I'm a storyteller, I'm a ghostwriter, and a long time ago, I was a chiropractor. But what I'm really good with is just helping people take what's good about them and tell it better and just say it in a way that makes people go, yeah, I want some of that. And Ed, we did that for Ed's company, edcrow.com, and his offerings. And then he thought, wow, this is something that I need to bring to my clients, because there's so many good companies out there and they aren't sharing how good they are with the people that could work for them. And so if we could do this, we could really help a lot of people. And that's what we've been continuing to do. This is our second time through this round of webinars, and it's really blowing my mind the next level that we've taken this to, just because of the case studies we've gathered and the people that we've actually helped along the way and seeing the results. So I'm excited to dig in. They're always a lot of fun to do right now. I want you to know it's interactive, so we have the little chat forum. You're all muted, and you're welcome to unmute and ask a question or add some feedback. But please, like, if we shout out to you and say, hey, what are you thinking about this, or how do you feel, or do you agree, or whatever, just type in the chat anything that you're thinking of. And right now, like, for the people listening, people that are on here, do you have an employment brand, or what do you where is your company in regards to your employment branding, and or is this something totally new? Just write what you're thinking around the concept of employment brand, and Ed will monitor the chat, and I'll
Will.
just keep on rolling.
And
So we'll go to
and
the
you know
next
what,
slide.
Paul? We forgot to welcome the folks that are out on LinkedIn Live. This is our first time going LinkedIn Live as well. So for
Whoa,
those of you
yeah.
that are out there, after a couple months of trials and tribulations, welcome to the LinkedIn Live community as well.
Couple of months has been like, this is
Yeah.
June. It's the first time we're going live. We've been trying since January. So
Yeah.
it is not a simple process.
Oh.
But we do hope it's feeding, and I think it is. So let's talk about why people leave. And honestly, like, it's such a revolving door these days, and trying to understand employees and what they want and what makes them happy and how to keep people. It can leave a lot of us guessing, right? And what I did is I went to a couple of the big job sites and just downloaded or got their list of the top 5. And then, of course, there's a lot more. But what I really want you to see is that it's not all about the finances, even though right now we're seeing people having to pay more and more and more just to keep, or just to fill positions, and it's not even keeping people. And this is a problem we've gotten ourselves into. It really is a factor of the corporate world not necessarily valuing employees as much, and showing people that the longevity factor and that um, loyalty doesn't really beget loyalty, and it's our own doing. And now we need to undo that, and that's what we're sharing here.
Paul, so we have Krista says, we do pretty well hiring and even retaining, but I wouldn't say we actually have a brand, so there's room for improvement.
Krista, this is where you can actually add some magic, because when we get to the end of this webinar, we're going to share a PDF document that will have these eight things, and you can rank your own company on them, as well as look at your competitors and see how they're doing, and then copy them if they're doing better, or blow them out of the water by telling people about it if you're doing better.
Yep. All right, so let's look at
Good
why these
stuff.
people leave, Paul. Why are they leaving?
Okay. Why are they leaving? So Indeed, where you're posting your job posts, the number one thing that they say is that they're not challenged enough. People aren't feeling like they're getting enough room for growth. They're not getting enough use of their skill sets. And it's interesting to see, because a lot of times if we're not looking at this factor, or finding out how our employees are feeling, we think it's just about other things like money or benefits, but really they want a bit of a challenge. They want to feel like they're stimulating their minds and their skill sets, and they're getting a chance to show what they're worth.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I've heard from clients, Paul, I know you have too, is they'll say, well, gosh, Ed, we're a really flat organization and there's not a lot of growth, upward mobility for our people. And I say, but that doesn't mean we can't build in challenges, that we can't enrich the jobs that they have. Because, yeah, they may want to be upwardly mobile and you don't have that opportunity right now. But gosh, if you can enrich their job in such a way that they're staying challenged, then we take care of this number one problem.
And what's really interesting that we did this year compared to last year is a lot of things was us just talking about these aspects of the employment brand. And then we featured big companies that, well, sort of big names that were doing it well. And they were all kind of in tech, or places where people could definitely work from home or at a computer, be anywhere. And so it didn't necessarily relate to all of our viewers and listeners. And so this year we found gas stations and convenience stores and companies like that. Now they are a little bit bigger and have worked through this whole process, but it's something you can copy and you can do yourself.
Mhm.
And certainly when bigger organizations are hiring, they can probably offer higher salaries because of their size. But by doing a good employment brand, you can compete with this, because there are factors that they just can't offer that the smaller player can really fine tune. So
Mhm.
looking for a higher salary, we knew this. We know it's always a factor, and you have to stay current. One of our webinars is on the metrics that you need to keep an eye on to keep your employment brand fresh and to keep retaining and attracting good talent. And one of the metrics is it just slipped my mind, Ed. What is it called?
Oh,
Comp
your
ratio.
comp ratio in
Yeah,
relation
yeah.
to the market.
So
Yeah.
so you got to
Yep.
be up on that and just see where your people fall with respect to the industry.
Yep.
Feeling uninspired, it's kind of like the same as number one, I'd say. But I mean, if your place, even if you have good, challenging jobs, but your place is dismal and the mood is uninspiring, the culture is not good. That culture is the biggest factor in your employment brand. It's, what is it like to be there? What is it like to work in your environment? And we used to be able to just say, well, I'm paying you, so you show up and take it. And these days, that's just not going to work, because the generations coming in won't take it, and they would rather not work than work for somebody that's making them miserable. Wanting to feel valued, it all does come around to the sensitivities of the employees now, and that they aren't afraid to vocalize it, and that they aren't afraid to show you with their feet how they feel about what you're doing to them. So wanting to feel valued, even if they're being paid well and they don't feel like they're valued, they'll go somewhere where they do feel that.
Hmm. Yep.
And then seeking better management relationships. So these are all the factors that we are going to get into, that are things that you can and you do have control over, even if you're not a big organization. And I think, like Krista, you probably have some of these nailed in your company, and it needs to be highlighted, and that's what we're going to talk about.
I know Krista's company, and yes, they do. They're doing a lot of really cool things. So, and they have cool work, which is really nice too. So shout out to you, Krista.
All right, let's look at Monster. So again, like number one, insufficient pay or unfair pay practices.
But notice that's different,
Precautions.
right, Paul, than Indeed, the unfair pay practice.
True,
Are you
true enough.
looking at the pay differences between men and women, between people doing the exact same job and getting paid differently, those types of things? It's more than just a compliance issue. It really is a fairness issue. And so, if people perceive the pay to be unfair, that's a huge mountain to climb.
Yesterday I was just talking to a colleague of mine. She actually writes for me when I'm doing ghostwriting projects, and she works at the chiropractic college that I actually went to study to be a chiropractor. And they have really antiquated practices and an old boys club and all that sort of stuff going on in there. And her boss got fired. He was the director of continuing ed, and she's doing his job and she's doing it 10 times better because last year under his management they had 4 projects that they launched, and in the time that she's taken over since, she has landed 37 projects just this year alone. But they won't even let her use the title of director of whatever. And behind closed doors, the boss said, just between you and me, there's just never been anyone this young in this role, and we don't want to give that to you. And so she's looking because
Yeah,
she's bringing money into the college, but they won't value that.
what a shame. Yeah, what a shame. Wow.
Lack of honesty, integrity, and ethics, more of the same,
Kind of plays right in there, right? With
doesn't
that
it?
last part.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, the honesty part, the guy was honest with her,
he
but
was. Yeah.
from an integrity standpoint, how do you tell someone, hey, we love what you're doing for us, but we're not going to give you the raise, the title, the anything else because in this case you're too young? Wow.
Lack of trust in senior leaders, they're breeding it. That's what's
Hmm.
happening.
Yep.
Lack of work-life balance. This is a big one nowadays, and we know since the pandemic that everybody wants to be at home, and not everyone can be. But if they can be, you just have to look at, am I trying to put something across the board without looking at fairness or individual circumstances and what can be done? This is a place where you actually, if you do start to exhibit flexibility and get creative, it can be a perk and something that you can offer people. And the old practice of this is how it is at our company and it's like this for everyone is going to cause you to lose people because of a lack of flexibility. Unhealthy, undesirable culture. Again, that is the actual key feature in the employment brand. So these are just the top 5 for both of those. There was a lot more, but they all kind of start to play into each other.
And I like the
But
fact, Paul, that when you look at 10 items over these last 2 slides, only 2 of them had to do with pay. So we know pay's up there. We know it's a big thing. We can't ignore it, but it's not the only thing. So
what I wanted to show here in the next couple of slides is just that uh, I always go back to HubSpot because they are really easy. I mean, they're definitely a marketing company and they're online, so they do a good job showcasing their employment brand, and they're a good place to look. And when we have the exercise at the end, at looking at the different factors in the employment brand, you can use this as a way to just see what you can actually offer or copy of somebody doing it well. So this is their on their careers page for HubSpot, they go right ahead and show their Glassdoor rating, which does fluctuate. I mean, it says 4.6. It looks like it's 4 when I go to Hubs or to Glassdoor live right now, but they're not afraid to show what people are saying.
mhm.
And on the next slide,
Yeah.
I'll show you.
And yeah, I mean, you can even click on the read the reviews. And I love the banners down here, the ribbons, right? Look at this. Best CEOs for women, best place to work for millennials. I mean, these are some pretty cool things to be tooting your horn about. And And I work with organizations that oftentimes will say, "Oh yeah, we're doing these great things, but we don't want to toot our own horn. We're kind of humble." Okay, that's a nice trait. Humility is a great trait for us to all learn, I think. But when it comes to, you would never put, again, your service or your goods you're producing under a bucket and say, "Oh gosh, we don't want to tell how good our service is." You would never think about doing business that way. And so when we've got good things about our business, we want to brag on them. And HubSpot's not afraid to brag on what they're doing well.
And it could be Rotary Club or could be an award from like the Chamber of Commerce or whatever local featuring that you get. You can put that up, and it all works in your favor because it's social proof.
Mhm.
So these are HubSpot reviews. You got some 5-star reviews here, and here it's saying great work culture, great company overall, and good supportive management. They do get to vocalize their cons, and that's okay because you really want an open, honest opinion from your employees, and
Mhm.
that's all you'll get on Glassdoor. But you absolutely should be encouraging your current employees to go there and review the company. So say after you give them a raise or a good review or whatever, or you have a meeting with them, just go, hey, you know what? I'd really love if you could post that on on Glassdoor for us and just write us a review because it really helps us with getting more great people like you.
Mhm.
So we got best company I ever worked for or best organization. And the next slide, it talks about money. So this person is a current employee, more than 3 years, and says great people, great autonomy, great management. And they think the management is stellar and the psychological safety, all those buzzwords around what we want in our culture right now. Uh, so the promotion path is good, autonomous work. But then the cons, the pay is just okay, right? I believe it could be higher compared to other customer service roles out there. Generally, the salary is between 75 and 87 for the segment, and it's considerably less than other companies. But the person still works there. So clearly, there's something keeping that person there. And that's what I just wanted to show with this one.
Right, right. So I mean, it is a great example, and it's obviously only one, right, Paul? That yeah, the person's saying, "Hey, the money's not the best," but it seems like they're getting their fulfillment out of all of those other things, so they're willing to say, "Yeah, I could be earning a few more grand, but what's this other organization that's going to pay me 5 grand more going to expect out of me, and is it going to violate some of my ethics or who I am as a person, or give up some work life fit?"
And that is the general sort of consensus on the cons for HubSpot is that they're known that you're not going to get the most pay here, but there's so many good things that make up for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so in order to talk about those good things, I'm going to hand it back to you, Ed, to show the factors that people value more than money.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about 8 things that make up your employment brand. Now, the thing to remember is we're going through each of these. These are not equally proportioned. Okay. It's not, well, I got to put equal focus on all of these things. You're probably going to find some things that are really important within your culture and you're doing really well at. Excellent. We are going to want to blast those to the mountaintops, right? The other things, we don't want to say, "Oh, they're not important." We've got to work on them though. But we'll find that these 8 factors are a unique blend for each of you. So what your secret sauce is going to be different from the company down the road. So it's not about mimicking what the company down the road is doing with regards to their employment brand. It's about being the best you that you can be so that people know what they're getting when they come to work for you. Okay. So these are in no particular order. Okay. So again, this is not a do this first or second or anything. So the first thing that we want to take a look at is what benefits that are we offering our people. Okay. So a lot of times when Paul and I are out and we're working with clients on their job posts, I mean, what do we see, Paul? We offer paid vacation, health insurance, and vision and dental. Okay, good for you. So is everybody else, right? Like those are the bare minimums today. If you're not doing those things, you're probably not going to get an application in. Okay. Now I'm not saying don't tell people that you're offering those, but what is it about your health insurance that makes you good? Okay. So, a friend of mine is president of a school bus company. pays his part-time school bus drivers decently, but gives them 100% free health coverage. Now, how many businesses are offering health coverage to part-timers and it's free on top of it? But he realized he had it's a lot of moms that drive bus for him, and the vast majority of them are single moms. And so he kept hearing that health insurance was very important to them. And so he said, okay, he did a cost benefit on, okay, if I do this and I can retain more of my drivers and I'm not having to recruit all the time, how much money can I save? And he said to me, Ed, it's the best money I've ever spent. One, because it makes him feel good that he's doing something that for his people that they really need. But two, he's got people saying thank you. I didn't know, my kid needed this or my kid needed that, and I didn't know how I was going to pay for that service and still make my co-pays and everything else. And when he went to this 100% health coverage, it just changed his recruiting. And so now when he advertises, it's one of the first things out there. It's, whatever it is, $16 an hour, fully paid health coverage. So now he's attracting in a worker that money may not be the biggest thing, but it's the health coverage. So, then you can get into, but what are the other types of things that you're doing? Do you have a really robust tuition assistance program? Do you have pet insurance? Do what are the cool things that are out there that you are doing? Is anyone, in fact, let's open up the chat room, Paul. Does anyone have just an off the charts kind of, we'll call it a cool benefit that you're offering your people right
Yeah, in some places, it's the ability to go and do volunteer work for causes and not have to
now?
take a day off work.
Right. I knew a guy was very active in our local SHRM chapter for years. His employer, while he was the director of HR, did not, we'll say, quote, support that in him. So when he would come to our board meetings, he had to take some vacation time to do that. So for 2 years of board meetings at an hour and a half a month, he was taking an hour and a half of his vacation time to go serve on the board of our local chapter. And I just thought, wow, what a shame that's how his organization viewed community service in that regard. Now they do community service for other things, but for me, that was just I just never understood that about the organization. Anything popping in the chat there, Paul?
Yeah, Melody says pet insurance, legal insurance, volunteer
Oh, legal.
opportunities, and community service.
Okay, excellent.
So,
Excellent.
and Juliet says we pay 100% healthcare for the staff member and 80% of healthcare insurance for spouse and immediate family. And she
Nice.
thinks this is unusual.
It is. Absolutely is, Juliet. Sarah, I saw you pop in. I know you guys have a pretty cool
Oh, we got
benefit.
Krista, pet, legal, volunteer time, and pension. And Sarah says,
Pensions.
yeah, I know.
Woo! Girlfriend,
Yeah.
pensions. You don't hear that anymore.
And then we got Sarah, guild opportunity for employees to get professional certifications if traditional college isn't the right fit. And what I love about this is just, even for people that aren't going to go to college, they can still advance themselves, and this is the growth opportunities that people aren't getting, the challenge they're not getting. And oftentimes, I guess even in frontline roles, there's ways we can help people grow.
Absolutely. And
Also
so,
increasing
oh,
our
please.
EAP visits to 11 per year.
Okay. Yeah, nice. So yeah, I mean the whole psychological piece is huge. So that's an extra perk, right? So, these are things we want to be touting that we've got out there. And again, this is not about keeping up with the Joneses. So, it's not about what is my competitor doing and I've got to match that. It's how do I combat what they're doing? If I can match it, great. But are there things that I can do that are in my wheelhouse better than them to out outduel them for the town? That's how we have to approach each one of these things that we're going to talk about. And benefits is one of the ones that you can really make yourself stand out. And we heard a couple of really cool
Yeah.
perks and benefits just now.
And it's really about tailoring it to the kind of person you want to attract. Like if it is the single moms, I mean, they're going to be great bus drivers because they care and their kids probably on that bus. So you
Exactly.
need to think about what they're looking for and tailor
Mhm.
your benefits that way, because even money is not going to pull them somewhere else necessarily.
Exactly. Exactly. Because think about the massive raise they would need to get to lose 100% healthcare coverage, right? They're not going to find that. So okay, so we do have good salary up here, and I emphasize the word good. Notice I didn't say top salary. Notice I didn't say market leading salary. I said good salary. You could replace it with another four-letter word, a fair salary. Okay. One that's equitable, that people say, hey, I show up, I put in a good day's work for a fair day's wage. That's what we're talking about here. Okay. So again, we know with where, excuse me, with where the economy's at right now, and inflation, that money is a driver for folks. Okay. So all I'm saying here is know your position in the market and set that intentionally. If you want to lead the market with the best pay, great, good for you, but know why you're doing that. If you want to lag the market a little bit, great, but know why you're doing it and how transparent you can be with your people about their prospects for salary growth is really determined by your culture. Okay. Um, I'm a proponent of people knowing how much they can grow income wise in their current position. So maybe sharing with them the pay range of their current position, right? I mean, I think that's fair. Um, how much you show other than that, again, I think is based on your culture and what would work for you. So good salary means that we're paying attention to what's going on in the market, that we're not losing people because we know, hey, the company down the road is doing exactly what we're doing and they're paying 20% more. Okay, well, maybe we can't afford the 20% more, and that's fine. But then can we make up for it elsewhere, right? So even though I don't want us to think that salary is not part of it, but it's not the only thing either, right? It's just part of this entire mix of these eight things. Um, okay, so third thing we want to look at is job security. Now, I know for those of you that are in the room that are HR folks, you're going, wait a minute, Ed. There's no way I'm going to sit here and tell someone you have a job for life. Okay. Not what I'm talking about. But let's say your organization has 10 years of growth and you've added jobs year on year. Let's talk about that. Let's say your organization has never had a layoff or closed a location. Let's talk about that. That's what I'm talking about when it comes to job security. If you show me an organization that has successfully managed downturns in the economy without laying people off, has had a steady growth pattern where they're creating new jobs, opening new facilities, those kinds of things, inherently that tells me as a job seeker, they're doing something right in the market, they're meeting the market's needs. And if they continue to do that, that should mean job security to me, right? And so that's what I think of with job security. So if you've got those things, and maybe there are some other things that you believe lead to job security. Maybe you do a lot of government work and your government contracts last 5, 7, 10 years. You're not going anywhere for 5, 7, 10 years. Tout that kind of thing to the extent that we can, right? So some of the things that maybe we take for granted, we want to toot our own horn on when it comes to job security.
That's a big one. Just
Mm-hmm.
like talking about things, and we did that one employment brand for the engineering company, and
Mm-hmm.
they were talking to me about, even during the worst of times, they did not lay anyone off, like in the pandemic, and they worked with all the employees to share positions and take cuts across the board. They did all sorts of things, but writing a
Mm-hmm.
story about the things that you've done during tough times, or having a person actually even talk about it or feature it, can show what lengths you'll go to keep good people.
Right. Yep. Yeah, we heard a lot of those heartwarming stories during the pandemic where, organizations maybe across the board, everyone agreed to take a slight pay cut to make sure that everyone stayed employed, those kinds of things. So there's lots of things we can play with job security and our history. We just can't be afraid to talk about it. Okay, next up, career development. So this is especially critical if you are employing the younger generations. Of course, the millennials, obviously, but even Gen Z now. What are we doing to build people up? And here the age-old problem is, oh, well, I'm going to develop them, and they're going to leave and go elsewhere. Maybe. And if they do, for me, it's, well, what are the other 8 things we're talking about here that you're not doing? That they're just taking your development and running. One of my clients, their top HR person, moved up through the ranks, had been with them, I'm thinking around 10 years, and left. And it was kind of a surprise that she left, went to another well-known organization, stayed there for 2 years. Guess what? Came back when the second highest HR role opened up, because she did love the organization, but came back as a better HR professional for the experience that she had elsewhere. And now when that person moved on, she's been elevated. So, people moving away from our organization may not inherently be bad, especially if we have a relatively flat structure that we can't move them up. Okay, maybe their career development has to happen elsewhere. But to the extent that we can, let's look at how we can enrich their jobs. What does career development really mean to our people? Because it's not always upward mobility, right? It could just be, hey, I love what I'm doing. I love the role I'm in, but I want to stay challenged. I want to learn new things. And that doesn't have to come with a promotion. So, do we have a well-managed career development process where people can talk about their goals and we match them up to the goals of the organization to come up with the right plan for that individual and our company? Okay, here's a biggie: work-life fit. Okay, call it balance, call it fit, call it whatever you want. But we need to have something in place. I just read an article. It was an interview by a guy who owns a national gym brand. It's not Planet Fitness, but it's one of the other biggies. The name's escaping me. At any rate, in the article, this gentleman said, hey, there is no such thing as work-life balance or fit. He said, to the extent, if you want to be wealthy, you want this, you want that, you've got to give stuff up. And I read this interview, and the more I read, I didn't get angry. I felt sad for this guy. And the reason I felt sad is not because of his life choices and what he gave up to build this, gym empire. Okay. That was his work-life fit. He wanted to work hard. He talked about the games that he missed of his kids growing up and all these things. That was his fit. So let's not glorify workaholism as, oh, it's a sacrifice. No, people that are workaholics, they're making a choice that their work-life fit is putting less emphasis on the life side, the personal life side of their whole self. And I'm not here to judge that, okay? It's not what I want, and it may not be what you want, but it may be what that other person wants, okay? So it's not about forcing people to take vacation, although I think they should, okay? But what works for one person doesn't work for everybody. How can we blend that into our organization? And so one of my biggest beliefs, and we've got a varying range of size of organizations in the room today, is please, please, please don't get stuck in that, well, if I can't do it for everyone, I'm not doing it for anyone mentality. I hate to use the term fair, but that's not fair, right? If we can be super flexible with a group of employees that can flex from home, flex their start and leave time, well, let's do that. And the pushback I get is always, well, Ed, our machine operators can't flex, so why should the office? Well, if I went to trade school and I studied how to do CNC machining, I'm pretty sure that I knew I would have to show up and make my widgets for 8 hours a day or whatever my work shift was. I couldn't just flow in and out of an assembly line like that. I have that inherent understanding of my career path. If I choose to be a nurse and I have to be on the floor to maintain the number of medical staff to patient ratio, I can't just roll in when I feel like it. Okay. So when people choose their careers, they know what they're signing up for. So let's not feel like, oh, because our nurses can't do it, our admins can't do it, right? Um, so again, it has to come back to your culture for sure. Okay. What does your culture, what's it willing to tolerate? What's it able to do? Okay. But let's not think of work-life fit as only being about my ability to show up when I want or telecommute. Okay. Um, could be the simple things like, hey, right now, my partner is on medical leave. And so can I show up for work a half hour late this week to get my kid on the bus? Right. That's not a long term ask. It's a short term ask, but it is a work life fit ask. And I think knowing most of the folks in the room today, I think most of you would say, yeah, go get your kid on the bus, support your partner, do what you got to do. Right. But I've heard horror stories about simple requests like that being denied because, oh, you need to be at your desk at 8 o'clock. Well, wait a minute. I'm not a receptionist, not an assembly line. Like I'll work through my lunch. I'll get, those kinds of rigid rules around work life fit are the kinds of things that will drive people away much faster than almost any other problem on this list. If you identify one of these as a problem in your organization. So, we could spend an entire hour talking about the work life fit issues, right? And again, what can we do? What can't we do within our culture is key here. What are the neat things we can do? Some of you work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, right? Okay, there's only so much you can do. Others, you have very tight hours. So again, work-life fit, there's no one fit for every organization, but we know this is absolutely key. So I'm spending a lot of time on this one, just like we did with benefits, because I think those two, we have a lot more control over than we think we do when it comes to meeting our people's needs with these areas.
And the big thing there is in certain industries, people know what they're getting into. They know the pace, they know the workload,
Mhm.
and you are trying to attract a certain kind of person. And so some people may not fit into your work
Mhm.
life, and that's
Right.
okay. We have Sarah says she likes fit much better than balance. And
Yes.
just for people that we just want to make sure that that we're reading your comments.
Yes.
Juliet said that she put that their company puts an amount equal to 10% of the staff member's salary into a 401k annually without match as a perk
Nice.
benefit. Yeah. So
Where's the application, Juliet? I'm coming over.
yeah, exactly.
um, yeah, it's and thank you, Sarah, for your vote of confidence on the word fit. Coming from a runner, I should expect no less on the fit side, but it is true. I mean, balance means we work as hard as we play. I mean, like I like to work hard, but I also like to play hard, but I don't want to do those in equal ratios. The less work we can do and the more play we can have, that's kind of what I'm all about, right? So when we look at the work-life fit, it is all about how can we fit these things together, these pieces together for ourselves and our organizations. So
We
when
also
we look
have
at, oh,
Krista
please.
saying that if we're in mandatory overtime, we ask employees to make it work in their schedule and can flex schedules up to 4 hours per week as long as they meet a 40-hour week.
Nice, nice. Yeah. When we get into the mandatory overtime, especially in production situations, that can be tough on people. And so allowing people to get those extra hours in when they can, that still suits our customers' needs, is really important. And I will say, so on the tail of that, the working conditions, right? So I have been in machine shops where they're so clean you could eat off the floor. Like not every machine shop is some dirty, grungy, crud-filled place, right? And so, but there are jobs that we know are dirty jobs. Like, was it Mike Rowe had a whole show on dirty jobs, right? That have to be done. And people that go into those jobs, again, they know what they're in for. So I was talking about this with a group of assisted living administrators a couple months back. And they said, Ed, you do understand what our CNAs have to do on a daily basis? And I said, I absolutely do. But when they went to get their certification, do you think that these folks didn't know what CNAs had to do for a living, right? That it wasn't sexy work, that you're dealing with a lot of stuff that maybe most of us would prefer not to deal with. Okay. Um, but they knew that going in because the career called them. So when I think about the working conditions, don't confuse the quote dirtiness of the work with the working conditions. Okay. Working conditions to me, how's my manager and supervisor relationship? What's the culture like? What's the physical building like? What are my coworkers like? I mean, there's so much more to working conditions than that. Um, do I feel safe at work? Like I know I'm going to go home with all my fingers and toes every day, kind of safety. Okay. Am I given the tools and equipment that I need to properly do my job? And so the working conditions piece, I have a soft spot for this one. Some of you that know me really well know that my undergrad degree is actually in industrial safety. And so, when I think about working conditions, I think about how comfortable we can make people in the 8 hours they're working, right? That they're not going home with the aches and the pains and these kind of things simply because of their work environment. And so these are simple things we can do, beautifying our work areas, fresh coats of paint, again, having the supplies they need, even the simple things like, if you got guys like in this picture here that are, maybe doing dirty work, that we've got extra scrubbing soap in the bathroom so that they can have clean hands for mealtime. Those little things matter when it comes to working conditions. So because we've got such a variety of folks in here, any of you do something really neat with your working conditions that you can share with the group? I mean, we got hospitals and banks and not-for-profits and machine shops and a little bit of everybody in here today.
Um, Juliet says the opportunity to work remotely matters to many. We are predominantly
Mm-hmm.
remote.
Mm-hmm.
And Krista says we lack on this.
Okay.
Zenden. Sarah has a Zenden.
A
Do you want me to tell you
Zen.
about it?
Oh,
Yes,
please.
please. Tell
So
us.
I think this is so cool. So at Penn State Hershey, there was a kind of an older space that instead of just letting it sit empty, then nursing leadership said for a very small budget, let's turn it into the Zen Den. And so they put in lower lighting and water, and people donated books, and you can go in and you have to leave your cell phone at the door, but you can go in for as short or as long as you want to and just recharge. And they call it the Zen Den. And it was very low budget, and it was just a space that was underutilized.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And that reminds me, Sarah, when you and I worked together on the PA Council stuff, that up there at the Penn State or Conference Center, there's actually a room that's a quiet room that if you just need a place to get away from the conference and just chill, yeah, their conference center has it. So I guess I'm not surprised that they would do that. Anything else pop in there, Paul?
So far, no.
Okay. So number 7, the biggie, right? Your values, your culture, and your ethics. What are you, what are you all about? Who are you? Okay. And so there's an old saying when it comes to doing business with people, that we like to do business with people we know, like, and trust. And so if you think about how you pull customers to you, you want them to know about you, you want them to like you want them to trust you, and then they do business with you, right? The same could be said for attracting talent to us. People want to work for people they know, like, and trust. And that comes out of our value, our culture, and our ethics. So are we open in the marketplace with our values, what we stand for? I was working with an insurance company not long after the George, what was his name? That died from the police, George Floyd. Okay, and situation. And this organization stayed silent on that issue. That was their choice, was to just stay silent. Okay, that was fine for them. But part of the work I was doing is I was running employee focus groups for them. And one of their African American leaders said, you know, Ed, it disappointed me. Not the fact that we didn't come out condemning the police or Black Lives Matter, but just that we didn't say anything. And he said, I wasn't quite sure as a Black man how to take that. And so we have to remember that when we choose not to do something, we've still made a choice. Okay. And so those choices reflect our values, and our people see that. Now, I'm not telling you to have values that aren't yours. Have your values, whatever they are, and then make sure our people know those values and make sure we're talking about those values. More and more organizations are taking political stances. Not that long ago, we would have said, whoa, 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 stay out of politics, stay in your lane. More and more organizations are taking stances on political issues. And again, I don't know how I personally feel about that, but if it's working for those organizations, then that's good for them. And it might be part of their culture. So Paul and I have talked in other webinars about Patagonia and their commitment to the environment and environmental topics. I mean, heck, they're making outerwear and gear for being outside. So yeah, it makes sense that that's part of their culture. And they've also taken a stand on some political issues. So some organizations will say, well, gosh, Ed, if I take a stand like that, might I isolate some people? Absolutely, you might. What you have to ask yourself is, if I isolate some people, are those people who I would have really wanted working for me? And I know that's a hard distinction to make right now. And again, so I'm not telling you, please go out and take political, it's an election year, take a political stand. Not what I'm saying. I'm just saying it works for some people as part of their culture. Okay. And so keep your minds open about how your culture is evolving. I'm not going to ask you to put this in the chat, but I ask you to think about this. How many of you actively manage your culture? If this group is like most groups that I've asked that, probably less than 20% of you actively manage your culture. And that's a challenge, because if we have a culture that's unmanaged, it will manage itself and it will go to a place that we don't want it to go. Doesn't mean that it's a bad place, but it will go somewhere else. Okay. So we have to be managing the culture through the way we treat our people, the people that we bring in, how we interact with the community, all of that. One of the clients Paul and I are working with right now, a big part of their culture is this motto of "we do more." And it's everywhere. And it started out as a marketing thing where it was, we do more for you, our customer, right? But HR has internalized that. We do more for our people. And that's become a big value for them and a driver of their culture, that they will say, we do more. And so Paul's working with them to tell that story through their recruiting mechanisms right now. Okay, and the final one, employee recognition. Sounds like the easiest thing on this list. Well, heck, Ed, we throw birthday parties and we give length of service awards and da 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 da. Okay, great, good. I'm not dissing on any of that stuff. Okay. Are we recognizing people in the way they want to be recognized? That's the real question. Okay. Some people may not want the public recognition of their birthday. Okay. What if you had let's say you have an organization where it's June, and so all the June babies get their birthday cake and we announce it all. Okay. But what if you have a Jehovah's Witness in your work group that does not acknowledge birthdays, right? That would be an affront to them. Okay. And I'm sure they're not the only religion or group that says, hey, we don't really do the birthday thing, right? But those are examples of having recognition is crucial, but knowing what your people want and don't want is equally as important with your recognition. Okay. Because the worst thing that you can do is have recognition and miss someone. right? That's a problem. And so it's not a reason to not do recognition, obviously, but it is something that we have to be very, very careful of. And so when you're designing your recognition program, you know, the obvious things like a birthday or a company anniversary or maybe some kind of safety award, those are the easy things to hit. But what else could you recognize people for on a more regular basis than some annual event? Are any of you doing something where you're recognizing people for other types of things?
We got 4 minutes, and I don't want to keep people
Okay.
longer.
I mean, certainly more regularly as projects are completed and we have board meetings, we call out people who are instrumental in get moving a project forward.
Okay.
So it's more regular recognition instead of some plaque or an award. It's just calling people out. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And those little things matter. So when you're looking at your employee recognition, I like to think small with it. Small and personalized is always so much better than, like Juliet said, the plaque, right? My wife's been with UPS for 39 years. You know how many plaques are stacking up in the basement of every 5 years? I mean, where's she hanging them? She works from home. Like, I don't understand it. So anyway.
We've got kudos from Krista, kudos forms submitted between employees.
Okay, yep.
And that's nice that you can submit to each other. Melody says, shout out on monthly team call to an employee who has gone above and beyond based on peers. And again, peer review is really powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. Huge, huge. In fact, one of the clients Paul and I worked with, they thrive on not peer review, but peer recognition, to the point that managers aren't allowed to recognize their people through that particular platform. They have an entire platform just for peer recognition, and they've been killing it that way for 20 years. It's amazing.
Right.
So
I'm
Paul,
going to tie this up fast.
Sorry. We got
through these
a good
8
discussion there, I hope.
We got into it, yeah. But I think through these 8 different aspects that make up the employment brand, and you can see that there are things that are really valuable. Probably a lot of you are doing them, and you're probably not highlighting them enough as attractive features of your company. So here's what you can do to attract more of the top talent you have to get more of them. And it's all about really looking at employee engagement and employee experience and designing that employee experience so that it really reflects the kind of employee you want to attract. So you can't give them everything they want, and people know they can't get everything they want, but they need to be happy where they are. And so if you can balance that employee expectation, wants, and needs with, like, as a company, what you need them to do and the demands and the job on hand, because some jobs just aren't really that attractive, but people sign up for them. If you can balance that, you get an employee experience, and that's what you want to put forth, a true picture of what it's like at your company. And that's where your employment brand comes into play. And on the next slide, I'll just show you that your culture plus your employee experience equals your employment brand. And it is a brand because you need to market it. You need to tell people about it. And marketing is really just talking about it. Some of you are doing marketing just, when you're out and about meeting people or chatting, and that's marketing, right? If you find someone in a coffee shop who is incredible at customer service and you're talking to them and you say, well, hey, reach out to me because, like, we need people just like you at our company, that's marketing, right? Because you can tell them about your employment brand. Hey, we treat people like you really well and give you a lot of growth opportunities. These are things people want to know. And so taking those 8 items that Ed talked about and deciding which ones of them are going to be showcased, which ones do you maybe not do as well with, but it doesn't matter because you excel on other ones. That's what makes up your employment brand. And so, like Ed said, it's not going to be all 8 circles are equal and overlapping. You might have a really big one, and you might have some smaller ones that come in to balance it.
And we're going to be hitting a lot on this slide in a future webinar, this whole balance of culture and employee experience.
All right. And then let's just, so one big thing is you need to talk to your employees. And this is something I absolutely love doing because when you interview people, they tell you the craziest things, and the things that they think are the best are often things we overlook. So if you don't have good discussions with people to find out what they think, you're probably missing out. And a lot of times getting a third party in for that is way better because people are more open and comfortable. And so when I come back to the people we're working with, and I say, this is what people are saying, this is what I've got quotes, and they said that I can share this or whatever, they're blown away by what their people are saying. You ask, the next thing is you want to highlight the features that they think are the best, because if they think it's good, there's people out there just like them that are going to look for that and want it. So you highlight, and then finally you market it. You want to use their testimonials, use the stories people share, and put it out. You might put it on your social media, maybe it's on your careers page. And that's how you can showcase those values, culture, and ethics. Just show examples of it. And there's nothing better than a story to show examples. And that's what marketing is. It's really saying things is one thing, showing an example or a story of it, a little feature or a case study of an employee is going to show a lot more. It's going to tell people, wow, they're walking their talk. And that's what your employment brand is. It's just giving a really honest view of what it looks like in your workplace and what it's like to be there. And so I know, Christy, said like you don't really know, or you're not really doing it. We have a PDF you can download. Next month's webinar, I think we talked about it already. The date's up there. But if you scan this QR code, you're going to be able to download an employment brand worksheet where you can look at those 8 factors for you and write down what you think you're doing well, what you'd like to improve on. Then you can go to your competitors and stalk them, go through their careers site. Like if you go to HubSpot, you'll be able to find all 8 of those factors on there. I guarantee you'll see that they've covered it all. And if you go to their Glassdoor, it's there, like salaries, everything. You can do that for any company. And if it's not there and you can't find anything about it, they're not probably a competitor because nobody else is finding that either. Also with this Taka.code, code, you can give us some feedback on whether we shared some valuable information. It just helps Ed and I to tailor these better to you so that we make sure we're providing actionable things that you can use and walk away with after the webinar and do something with it.
Yeah. So I'll leave this up for a second here in case you still need to have that scan. Probably by Monday, the replay of this will be posted. So if you found this valuable and you wanted to go back and hear a few more things, it'll be out there. You'll get an email notifying you that the replay is out there. And also feel free to share that with someone. If you're like, oh gosh, my coworker or friend, whoever wanted to join and couldn't, that link will be good that you could forward to them to make that happen. So I know we're up against it. We got into the employment brand a little longer than we had thought. It's a couple minutes past the hour. Are there any questions that you would like to ask us? You can feel free to unmute or hit that chat box, and we'll be happy to take a couple of questions here before we close out.
And you won't hurt our feelings dropping off either. We know we're past our hour. We have Krista said, oh, thank you so much for great pointers. And Pam Adams said, I think it's Pam, Canteen Bucks peer-to-peer supervisors give each other dollars each month to designate bonuses.
Nice. Nice. Okay, y'all, we're gonna let you go. I don't see any other questions coming in. Thanks. Please feel free to join us next month. If you like this one, we got more for you next month. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. Take care.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Great session.